Congratulations, we are pleased to offer you the position of mid-level software engineer at a salary of £48,000. When I read those words, I was over the moon. Everything I had worked for was paying off. Now that email was a long time ago, and since those days, I've gone on to secure some big money coding roles. But as everybody knows, getting the first programming job is the hardest. So I'm going to give you the full story of how I made it happen and how I set myself apart from thousands of other engineers also applying for jobs. If you're wondering how best to communicate with hiring managers, then I'm going to show you my email conversations with hiring managers so that you see the best way to negotiate for a higher salary. In case any of you simply don't believe my starting salary, then I will reveal the offer letters that I got. And most important of all, I reveal the tactics I used to receive not one, but 3 job offers here in London. I did it all with no computer science degree, and if you do it the right way, then you can as well. So in order for us to cover all of that, let's go back to when it all started. I had just returned from living in Australia, changed careers to software, and started teaching myself how to code. I knew the job prospects for programmers was looking great. The money was fairly good, although I never knew just how good it could be. And, back then I thought the salary for top level engineers capped out at like 80k. Oh, how wrong I was. So I began studying at my local library. I found some book which was like 5 years old, about Intro to HTML5. And I began reading that, but in my naivety, I did not know that programming languages move so quickly. Even this book that was just 5 years old was completely outdated. Anyway, besides learning at my local library, I was also attending coding meetups over London, where I got pointed in the direction of Free Code Camp. The teachings on Free Code Camp were far more up to date, and I supplemented that learning with doing Code Wars challenges as well to gain performance optimizations in my code. And then, for the first time in my life, I experienced racism firsthand. I was looking for a programming bootcamp around London. Now, most of them were charging about £8,000 to £10,000. I couldn't afford that. I had no money at the time. So I was looking for something that was ideally low cost or free. I managed to find a free bootcamp in North London, and I applied to that bootcamp. I built a website for them, I filled out the application, and after 2 months of hard work, I was rejected because I'm a white guy. That's right. They weren't upfront about this, but they were making a big drive for diversity. And even though 90% of the applicants to that bootcamp were white dudes, only a single white guy was accepted into the cohort. Yeah, so I was quite mad about that. In hindsight, I'm glad that bootcamp didn't accept me because I went on to meet some mentors that didn't mind me being a white guy at all. And now I earn more than the teacher of that bootcamp. So bootcamp, go fuck yourself. Anyway, I ended up finding an affordable bootcamp in London that only cost around 2k, where I learned the fundamentals to build a React application. After that, I did Harvard CS50, which is a free online Harvard course for programmers. I built a couple of portfolio projects and then started applying for jobs. There was one huge problem though. COVID had just whacked the job market. The job market was fucked because once COVID hit the economy, all of these tech companies had laid off a load of their engineers. So like 10,000 experienced engineers had just hit the job market. There's me with 0 industry experience trying to apply for jobs, and they're all being snapped up by engineers with more experience than me. I don't stand a chance. So I did the only thing I could, and I continued building my portfolio projects. I briefly considered doing a computer science master's, and I was even accepted onto the computer science master's at Bristol University. My mentor interestingly talked me out of it. He said, if you go and do a computer science degree or a master's, you will not learn the web dev fundamentals that you need to get a job in the industry. And he was absolutely right. So instead, I ended up doing a bootcamp called App Academy. Now, App Academy is based out of San Francisco and New York, and if you go and do it in person, it costs like 25k. It's a pricey bootcamp. Fortunately, they also offer their courses online for free. You don't get any of the direct teaching, but you can access the course materials, and that's what I did. Now, once I'd finished App Academy, my coding skills were in a really strong place, and it was time to build a strong portfolio. Using what I'd learned, I created the Gram. The Gram is a full stack clone of Instagram built in Ruby on Rails, React, TypeScript, Redux, modern CSS, Postgres, and using an MVC framework. These are all the key technologies that tech employers were looking for at the time. The gold standard of portfolio projects. For those of you that are curious, I'm going to drop a link for the Gram down in the description. Just so this sinks in. It's a fully working clone of Instagram where you can go on, sign up, create an account, upload posts, like each other's posts. It has all the features of Instagram, and I built this as a portfolio project. And this brings us to key lesson number 1. Your portfolio must be insane. You must have a sick portfolio. It's not good enough to have a to-do list or a simple blog website as your portfolio projects. That shit is so overdone, it would barely stand out in 2015, let alone today. Furthermore, nowadays you have so many killer tools at your disposal. You must produce powerful projects. You can use ChatGPT not only to learn how to code, but to completely accelerate your process. So you need a killer flagship project that puts you miles ahead of the competition. You really need to understand your employer's emotions. What don't they want? Well, they don't want to have to teach you everything. They don't want to have to hold your hand as a junior dev, review shitty junior code, and so on. Of course, there will always be some degree of mentoring and seeking guidance from more senior engineers when you're starting out, but the more you appear ready to join the team and hit the ground running, the more eager they are to hire you. And to show that you're ready, the first way to do that is to have an insane portfolio. This is non-negotiable. You need to make one insanely good project and then 2 or 3 strong backup projects. And furthermore, you must understand the code inside and out because they will question you on it in the interviews. Here's the distinction. When you're a senior software engineer and you go to interviews, they ask you about your industry experience. But when you're a junior engineer, because you have no industry experience, your portfolio acts as a substitute. You must be able to explain any line of code that they ask you about, because they will sometimes go on GitHub and look through the files of your projects and they'll pick out a design decision that you made and ask you about it. You have to have a solid portfolio and then back up the technical decisions you made in building it. So that's what I did. During that winter, I built a powerful programming portfolio, and then it was time to pull the trigger and actually apply for some jobs. Now here's something key. In order to get good money in your first coding job, you need to crush it in the interviews. If you want to pass any software interview, then check out my most recent video where I explain how I landed a 140k software job based here in London. And I explain the interview preparation behind that. That video is available on my channel. Something I will add to the interview advice that I give in that video is don't present yourself as a junior. Don't even draw attention to it. I hear juniors say stupid shit like, even though I have less experience, I'm a hard worker. Don't start saying that crap. Just crack on as if you are the most experienced person in the interview. And then only if they explicitly mention your lack of experience, then you can be more humble. I really would say do not draw attention to it. Act as if you are already ready for the job and they would be stupid not to hire you. Now, I had prepared my portfolio, I had done my interview prep, and I started doing applications. I set myself some hard rules to follow. Firstly, I would apply to 10 companies per day. So during a 15-hour day, I would spend about an hour and a half on the application to each company. Number 2, I always applied to a company directly. I never used a job board. And number 3, I always sent a follow-up email. So I'll clarify points 2 and 3 for you now. I'm going to explain what direct application means because it was so crucial in me getting multiple job offers. Here's the mistake most junior engineers make. They go on the job boards and they start just spamming their CV on all of the job boards. Listen, fuck the job boards. Do you think you're going to stand out there? Put yourself in the shoes of the hiring manager. She needs a mid-level software engineer to join the team. So she posts the role on indeed.com. And within a week, she receives 1,000 CVs through the application. She starts sifting through the CVs. Do you think she's ever gonna see your CV in that sea of resumes that she has? And when she opens it and she sees you have no experience, move on to the next one. And she'll end up hiring a programmer from Poland with like 6 years of experience. So you need to apply to companies directly. That means find the email address of the hiring manager, of the engineering manager, or of a senior developer at that company and email them. Send them your resume, say that you're looking for a job, be open and make sure you stand out. So put a really impactful subject line in your email. What I used to write is, hey, I'm Adam, full stack engineer, check me out. That's what I would send. And I'd send my resume and I'd send a really nicely worded email basically pointing out what I like about their company and how I can bring my skills to the team because you want to deliver value. Now some of you are thinking, how do I know the email address of the engineering manager? There are certain tools you can use. You can use hunter.io. There's a Gmail tool called Connect, or what you can do is go on LinkedIn, and sometimes people post their contact details on LinkedIn. Now these direct applications, they take a bit of time because you need to tailor your email to the specific company or to the specific person. That's why it takes like an hour, hour and a half for each company's application, because you need to tweak a few words and tailor a few things. So I was doing that. I was sending 10 direct applications per day, which have a way higher response rate than if I were to spam job boards and so on and so forth. Then I would go on LinkedIn at the end of the day and do easy apply on all of the jobs there, because eventually a few of the recruiters are going to call you back, and I got on the phone with as many recruiters as possible. That way I got used to like the kind of lingo they use, the kind of tricks that they use to try and get you to reveal the salary or reveal how much experience you have. I would always skirt around these questions. I highly recommend you just try and get on the phone to as many recruiters as possible just to get used to the language they use. In fact, I would apply for roles that I had no business applying for, stuff that required like 4 years of experience, just to get on the phone call and practice my conversation negotiation with these guys. Now, the aim of the game, once you're doing high quality applications, is to apply for as many companies as possible. I applied to 110 companies in the 2 or 3 weeks that I was doing applications. Now, how did I know which companies to apply for? I used to go through Angel List, I used to look at LinkedIn, and here's a trick that doesn't really get talked about often. You want to look for companies that you know are hiring but don't have any applicants yet, because then you stand out. Now, how do you find that out? Here's a trick. Go on Crunchbase and look for companies that have just received Series B funding. Series B funding, let's say it's like $10 million, right? They've received all this money, but their HR department hasn't posted the job on the job boards yet, but they are hiring. Here's the trick. Find out the email address of the engineering managers at those companies, and I trust you, they're hiring every single time. They've just received funding, they need to grow their team to deliver a big project to the investors. That's where you come in. Now, every time I applied to a company, I added it to a big spreadsheet so I could keep track of the status of each application. That way, when an email came in or the phone rang, I wasn't stuck there thinking, which company is this again? What stage of the process am I in again? No, I was organized, I knew exactly where I was with each company, and those conversations went smoothly. Now, here's the thing. I applied directly to 110 companies, and I never heard a response from the vast majority of them. 80 of those companies either ghosted me or they just flat out rejected me, citing my lack of experience. This will happen to you. Do not get discouraged. It's all just a part of the game when you're a junior applying for jobs. Because before long, I began getting responses and I started getting a shot at the interviews. So now I had my foot in the door. I was failing the first few interviews, but getting better and better. And I started getting used to the kind of questions they would ask, the format of the interviews, and so on. Then I started slowly progressing through the rounds. Usually there's about 3 rounds. You have an initial phone screen, a take-home tech test, and then a final coding round with 1 or 2 engineers from the team and possibly the hiring manager as well. And I made it to the final round a couple of times, including the final round with the investment bank Credit Suisse, where I talk about that in my latest interview video. And then finally, a breakthrough. I get my first job offer from a tech consultancy in London. They have a track record of taking junior engineers and training them up. There's only one problem though. The salary is way below what I'm looking for. They offer me a base salary of £28,000. And this is a junior role, so there's no equity, there's no signing bonus, it's a flat 28k. Now I'm faced with a tough decision. Do I accept their job offer and begin my career? Bearing in mind, I've been learning coding for months and months. I have £500 left in my bank account and the rent is due in 2 weeks. Furthermore, the job market is competitive, and if I hold out, I don't know when the next offer might come along. I thought about it for all of 5 seconds, and then I told myself, fuck no, I'm not accepting no 28k junior salary. Are you kidding me? All of the work I've put in, all of this preparation, there is no way I'm starting on a junior developer salary. I was so confident in my skills. I wrote code that was better than mid-level engineers. I wrote code that was cleaner, more performant, better structured. There's no way I'm accepting anything less than 35k. I politely emailed back to the CEO. I'm very grateful for your job offer. I want to be upfront and say that I have other interviews in the pipeline, and I want to see those processes through to completion before I make my final decision. Bam, I hit send. Now, they weren't too happy about that. They were pressuring me to sign the dotted line. And here's what companies will do. When they make an offer, they will try to rush you to sign the dotted line. They are used to people, especially junior engineers, being so over the moon to finally get a job offer, and they just accept whatever job offer they give. There's me telling them I've got other interviews in the pipeline and I want to hold off on giving them a response. It probably blew their mind for a minute. The CEO even called me up and he was like, you're very junior, we will train you up, and I don't think you can get a better job offer anywhere else. Now that pissed me off. That made me even more determined to prove him wrong. I had to make all of my preparation worth it. Those days of being completely broke and doing everything I could to save money whilst learning how to code. The long days hunched over a desk in the freezing winter, wearing 2 hoodies so we didn't have to turn the heating on to waste money. With all that shit that I'd gone through, I was going for bigger money. So I went on and I continued applying for companies, and a whole 2 weeks later, my next offer came in from company B. Now, when you get to the point that you have multiple job offers, that's when you can play the field. And nobody teaches you this. Not your parents, not school, not university. But when you have multiple offers, you must play the field. And here's how you do it. When I was going through the interviews with company B, I informed them that I already had an offer from another company. This strengthened my position in two ways. Firstly, I have social proof. Another company is interested in me and they verified that I'm good enough to be an engineer. Secondly, it applies time pressure to them because now company B were kind of rushing me through their interview process so then they could make an offer. They were a bit worried they might take too long and I would end up accepting the offer from company A. So as a result of those two factors, my offer from company B came in much higher than company A. In fact, they offered me £45,000, a whole £17,000 more than company A offered me. Now I reached this stage, the power was in my hands. I had a small offer from the first company, a strong offer from the second company, and I was in the later stages of the interviews with two other companies. I then did something that 99% of you are not going to do. I said to company B, who made the big offer, that I want them to wait. In fact, I told them that I want 3 weeks before I let them know my decision. Why did I do this? I wanted the maximum amount of time to complete my other interview processes, to get some competing offers, and then go through some rounds of negotiation. I had to ask for an extension, and if I anchored the conversation at 3 weeks, that company would get back to me and say, we can give you 1 week, then the process would be a whole lot easier. If I had said that I need a few days, they might respond to me, oh, we can give you 48 hours. So what you want to do is anchor the conversation and try and buy yourself as much time as possible. Now, 99% of you are not going to follow my advice. When that first medium or big size offer comes in, you're just going to fold, you're going to take that first offer, you're going to grab it with both hands and not look back. That's the sad truth of it, because when that big offer comes in, it's kind of nerve-wracking, particularly if you've put in so much work so far. You just want to accept it like a hand of God reaching down. But 1% of you will have the balls to hold out and wait a little bit and negotiate your salary for a higher salary. I will finish my story, but firstly let me tell you something. My mentor, when he was applying for his first jobs, he got a first offer of 45k. He told them to wait, and then he got a second offer from another company for 60k. So now he had two very strong offers. He negotiated those offers and got the 65k offer up to 80k for his first programming job. I shit you not, he got 80k at his first coding job. I didn't believe it until he showed me the pay slips. So having courage and patience will take you far in this game. So back to it. I just told company B to wait and I would finish my interview processes with some other companies. Just 3 days later, I finished the hiring process with company C and they also made me a job offer. Funny enough, they made me a job offer for 45k, exactly the same amount as company B. So now I had two companies making strong offers and company A was not even in the runnings anymore because their offer was so low. At this point, it was time to negotiate between the two companies that had offered 45k. So I began negotiating. I didn't do anything fancy at this stage. I basically emailed both companies and I said, hey, I really like your company and I really appreciate this offer. I have a competing offer from another company and it's very competitive. I would like to join your company, but I'll be far more comfortable signing that contract if you were to bump up the salary a little bit more. That would make my decision a whole lot easier and I would be glad to accept. You have nothing to lose by doing this. Some of you are gonna worry like, oh, if I ask for more money, they'll think I'm greedy, they might repeal the offer. That never ever happens. And the reason that never happens is because the effort that a company goes through to get you through the hiring process is so great, they're not just gonna pull the offer at the last minute. Think about this, they've been posting the job, they might have been waiting for weeks to get some actual good applicants. Then they take you through like 3 rounds of the hiring process. Now they've decided they like you and they've probably had a team meeting and then they make you an offer. Now you come back and say, hey, I just want a little bit more money. They're gonna say yes. There's always some money on the table. So you should always ask for more money. And in fact, company B did increase the salary up to 48k. So 3 grand more from sending 1 email. Now we were at 48k. I accepted their offer and that is how I landed a mid-level software role in London with no industry experience. I made it through the gauntlet and I completely bypassed any junior engineering jobs. That night, I slept so well, my bed felt more comfortable. When I woke up in the morning, the sunrise on my face felt even warmer. It was such a good feeling. And this is a feeling that you can have too, if you follow in my steps. So let's recap the key steps to take. Firstly, you need a killer portfolio. So 1 flagship project and 2 or 3 strong backup projects where you know the code for these projects inside and out. 2, apply to many companies and apply to them directly. Get personalized with your applications because you've got a higher rate of getting a response and then finally getting that job offer at the end of the process. Thirdly, crush it in the interviews. And number 4, always negotiate because you have nothing to lose and there is always money on the table. The worst thing they can do is say no. The best thing is they actually increase your salary by a few £1,000s. I am a new channel, so if you find this video helpful, then please give it a like.